In the heart of Rome, beneath the towering dome of St. Peter's Basilica, a storm no one expected has erupted. Shock. Pope Leo XIV has made a decision that now echoes like thunder through the marble corridors of the Vatican. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, once seen as a rising star, a bridge between continents, a voice of compassion, a servant of the poor, is now at the center of a quiet but devastating purge. The Vatican is stunned, the faithful are whispering, and around the world, the question is asked in disbelief, why? But that was only the beginning. Because just as the Holy See tried to contain the growing tension, an even more dramatic confrontation unfolded, one that now threatens the fragile unity of the Church itself. Shock. Cardinal Robert Sarah publicly attacks Cardinal Tagle inside the very halls where Peter's successors have ruled for 2,000 years. It happened not in secret, but before witnesses. The confrontation was sharp, unexpected, and deeply symbolic. The Vatican is in uproar. In the halls where saints once walked, where the cries of martyrs echo through centuries of sacred history, two princes of the Church now stand divided. On one side, Cardinal Sarah, the voice of tradition, the defender of orthodoxy, the man many have called the last lion of the old guard. His gaze is stern, his words cut like a sword, his faith rooted in the unshakable pillars of eternal truth. On the other side, Cardinal Tagle, the symbol of mercy, inclusivity, dialogue, and the global South's growing voice within the universal Church. He has been called the Asian Francis, a man whose tears move crowds, whose voice brings comfort to the lost, and whose hands have touched the poorest of the poor. But now, before stunned Vatican observers, the two collide, and behind the scenes, Pope Leo XIV watches. The confrontation comes at a time when Pope Leo XIV's own leadership stands under intense scrutiny. Whispers in the College of Cardinals speak of internal power shifts, of hidden factions maneuvering for influence in this new papal era. The world had barely settled from the historic election of Pope Leo XIV, the unexpected successor who inherited a fractured church following the death of Pope Francis. And yet, already, the tremors of division have begun shaking the very foundations of Peter's chair. What triggered Cardinal Sarah's public rebuke of Cardinal Tagle? Insiders claim the breaking point came during a heated closed-door session inside the Apostolic Palace, as the Pope prepared reforms for the upcoming synod, reforms that could redefine the Church's stance on sensitive moral and doctrinal matters. Cardinal Tagle was seen as a leading advocate for certain proposals seen by traditionalists as dangerous compromises. Cardinal Sarah could remain silent no longer. With piercing words, Sarah is said to have declared, "We are not called to conform to the world, but to transform it. If we surrender to the spirit of the age, we betray the gospel itself." Eyewitnesses described Tagle's face as pale, his voice calm, but heavy with emotion. "Mercy does not weaken truth, Your Eminence. Mercy fulfills it," Tagle reportedly replied. But the exchange did not end there. Reports now suggest that Pope Leo XIV, concerned by the spectacle and the growing polarization, summoned both cardinals into private audience. It was there, in the privacy of the papal apartments, that Leo XIV is said to have made the shocking decision that now dominates every Catholic headline. Cardinal Tagle will be quietly relieved of several key administrative responsibilities, reassigned to Albano, a move that many see as both a promotion and a quiet exile. For some, it is a graceful way of removing Tagle from the center of power without causing open scandal. For others, it is nothing less than a calculated political maneuver, a clear signal that under Pope Leo XIV, the winds within the Vatican have shifted. Social media exploded within hours. Hashtags like "From Vatican Crisis," "Ha Tagle Ousted," "For Sarah vs Tagle," and the Pope Leo Crusade trended worldwide. The faithful are divided. Some see Sarah as a courageous prophet, defending orthodoxy against compromise. Others weep for Tagle, fearing that mercy, inclusion, and the poor are being silenced. But the deeper question now looms. Is this only the beginning of a far greater conflict inside the heart of the Church? Many believe unseen forces are moving. Behind the scenes, secret dossiers, alliances among cardinals, powerful financial networks, and shadowy groups loyal to competing visions of Catholicism. Is the Pope being pulled in multiple directions? Or is this part of a master plan to consolidate his own authority? The world watches with bated breath. Beneath the marble floors of the Vatican lies the tomb of St. Peter, the rock upon which Christ built his church. And yet, even that rock now trembles under the weight of the battle for its future. And then came the twist no one expected. As rumors swirled, leaked documents suddenly appeared, suggesting that prior to his election, Pope Leo XIV may have received secret reports warning of an internal alliance between progressive cardinals, with Tagle allegedly seen as a figurehead for future reforms, too radical for certain factions to accept. The decision to remove him, some whisper, may have been in motion long before this public confrontation. But who leaked the documents? And why now? The Vatican remains silent. No official statement has been given. Cardinal Tagle, known for his humility, has not spoken publicly. Cardinal Sarah, when approached by reporters, simply said, "I serve God. The Church belongs to Christ, not to men." The air in Rome is electric. Priests whisper in hushed voices. The faithful gather to pray for unity. The world wonders, is the Church entering a new era of purification, or approaching a great crisis foretold by prophecy? And in the shadows, the mysteries deepen. The battle for the soul of the Church, between truth and mercy, between doctrine and dialogue, between old and new, has now erupted into full view. Pope Leo XIV stands at the center of it all. The world watches to see what his next move will be. And yet, some say the real storm has not yet begun. As the sun rises over St. Peter's Basilica, the bells ring. But beneath the sound of their solemn chimes, the Vatican remains tense. Behind its ancient walls, a spiritual drama unfolds unlike anything seen in recent memory. The confrontation between Cardinal Sarah and Cardinal Tagle has already shattered the illusion of peace. But whispers now grow louder. What triggered this storm may be far more complex and far more dangerous than any simple dispute. Inside the Apostolic Palace, Pope Leo XIV walks the marble corridors alone, his footsteps echoing against the ancient stone. A man anointed to shepherd 1.3 billion souls, but now caught between opposing forces that threaten to divide the bride of Christ herself. Advisors have warned him. Any decision now could either preserve unity or ignite open war within the hierarchy. And then, the rumors surfaced. Anonymous sources claim secret meetings took place months before the conclave that elected Pope Leo XIV. Meetings not in Rome, but in distant embassies, private villas, and hidden monasteries, where certain high-ranking cardinals allegedly gathered to discuss the future of the Church. Reports suggest that factions within the Curia, growing alarmed by Cardinal Tagle's increasing popularity as the Asian Francis, sought to block his path to Peter's throne long before the white smoke ever rose. It is now believed that these factions quietly rallied around Cardinal Robert Provost, the man who would become Leo XIV, seeing him as a more balanced alternative, one who would respect the reforms of Francis, but draw a firm line against the progressive wing's more radical ambitions. And now, those ambitions have collided. As Pope Leo XIV assumed the chair of Peter, he inherited not only a fractured church, but dossiers filled with concerns, some accusing Tagle's theological allies of pushing the Church toward dangerous compromises on moral teachings long considered non-negotiable. Marriage, Eucharist, ordination, interfaith relations, each file thicker than the last. But even this was not the end. Because deep inside the Vatican archives, investigators allegedly discovered correspondence dating back years. Secret communications, involving foundations, financial networks, and political groups hoping to sway church policies through influence, donations, and subtle pressure. And some of these names, it is whispered, are directly connected to individuals within Tagle's global network. The Pope, now faced with what some call an undeclared civil war inside the Church, made his fateful decision. Cardinal Tagle would be elevated outwardly to the suburbicarian See of Albano, a post of honor, but in reality, quietly removed from key positions that control Vatican governance. A surgical maneuver, a political exile disguised as a promotion. But it was Cardinal Sarah's public attack that ripped the veil off this quiet maneuver. Now, for the first time, the entire world sees what had only been whispered in shadows. A war of visions for the future of Catholicism itself. The faithful are divided. In parishes from Manila to Madrid, from New York to Nairobi, Catholics kneel before the Eucharist with tears and confusion. Some weep that truth is being betrayed. Others cry out that mercy is being silenced. The body of Christ suffers as his church trembles, and still the mysteries deepen. Some claim that ancient prophecies spoke of such a time, when the church would face a great trial from within. Warnings of a coming schism, of shepherds who would be divided, of a final purification before the return of the King of Kings. In the hills outside Rome, a group of cloistered nuns has reportedly begun praying day and night before the Blessed Sacrament, believing that this conflict may fulfill private revelations given to mystics long ago. Visions of a great shaking within the Vatican, where even the faithful would be tested as never before. And then, another twist. Late last night, anonymous footage leaked online. A secret recording of the actual moment when Sarah confronted Tagle. The video, shaky and dim, shows Sarah raising his voice, declaring with thunderous conviction, "Compromise with the world is betrayal of Christ. We are not politicians. We are the guardians of sacred truth." The room falls into stunned silence as Tagle, voice trembling but firm, responds, "The world is broken, Eminence. The people cry for healing, for mercy. If we do not open our hearts, who will bring them home to the church?" The video has now been seen by millions. Social media erupts anew. Catholic commentators flood the airwaves. News anchors debate whether Pope Leo XIV has lost control, or whether he is executing a master strategy to preserve unity before the next synod convenes. And then, as if orchestrated by divine providence, a letter surfaces. It is an unsigned memorandum, allegedly circulating among several cardinals, warning that the coming synod could be the moment when these tensions finally explode into open rebellion, with certain bishops prepared to walk away from Rome itself if compromise is pushed too far. Pope Leo XIV now faces a cross unlike any carried by his predecessors. The world waits. Will Leo XIV emerge as the unifying shepherd who can reconcile mercy and truth? Or will this confrontation spiral into the greatest crisis the Catholic Church has seen since the days of Avignon and the Western Schism? Pilgrims fill St. Peter's Square. Candles are lit. Rosaries are prayed. Eyes lift toward heaven as lightning flashes over the eternal city, as if nature itself bears witness to the storm brewing beneath the dome of St. Peter. But deep inside the Apostolic Palace, Pope Leo XIV kneels alone before the Blessed Sacrament, whispering the prayer that now echoes across the world. "Lord, let thy will be done, not mine, but thine." And still, the war behind the walls rages on. The hour is late, the stakes are eternal. The throne of Peter trembles, but Christ still reigns. And then, in the midst of all the rising tension, something happened that shook even the most seasoned Vatican insiders to their core. A letter arrived, but not through the normal diplomatic channels, nor from any of the cardinals, nor the curia. It was delivered anonymously, slid beneath the heavy oak doors of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith at dawn as the city of Rome still slept. The parchment was ancient, the ink slightly faded. At the top, a strange seal unfamiliar to many, but known to a few historians within the Vatican's secret archives. It bore the mark of the Societas Petri Antiqua, an ultra-secret fraternity of theologians and mystics, believed by some to have existed since the early centuries of the Church. Many had dismissed their existence as legend, but now their voice had returned. Inside the letter were only a few chilling words, written in Latin. "The hour of sifting has come. The shepherd will be struck, the flock will scatter, and in the confusion, the one who wears white may fall by the hand of his brother. Watch the east, for from it will rise both betrayal and redemption." The message spread like wildfire within the upper levels of the Vatican. What did it mean? Who had written it? And why now? The phrase, "the one who wears white may fall by the hand of his brother," sent shivers through every chamber. Was this a warning, a prophecy, or a threat? Some immediately feared that physical danger now surrounded the Pope himself. The Swiss Guard discreetly doubled their presence. New layers of security were quietly implemented around Pope Leo XIV's private quarters. But others whispered that the true danger was spiritual, that this was a veiled reference to an internal coup of unprecedented scale. And while these whispers filled the marble halls, another wave of reports began to circulate. Several high-ranking members of the Curia were allegedly meeting in secret. Not only conservatives like Cardinal Sarah, but also powerful global players within the Vatican's financial networks. Whispers spoke of a possible alliance forming, one that could challenge Leo XIV's hold on power if this conflict continued to escalate. At the same time, mysterious activity began to unfold in the Vatican's finances. Unexpected audits were ordered. Several key officials quietly resigned or were reassigned without public explanation. Hidden bank accounts, some dating back decades, were suddenly frozen. Those who understood Vatican politics knew financial moves often signal far deeper power struggles beneath the surface. And while the internal storm brewed, outside the Vatican walls, an even more mysterious sign emerged. One that instantly captured the imagination of the faithful around the world. At a Marian shrine just outside Fatima, Portugal, where the Blessed Virgin once delivered her apocalyptic warnings, a group of pilgrims claimed to have seen a strange celestial phenomenon. A blood-red cross appeared briefly in the sky at twilight, just as the sun began to set. Several among them captured blurry footage on their phones, showing the cross hovering above the horizon, fading slowly into darkness. The footage went viral within hours. Prophecy channels exploded with speculation. Had the third secret of Fatima not yet been fully revealed? Was this confrontation inside the Vatican now tied to the ancient warnings of the Blessed Mother, of apostasy, division, and judgment upon the Church? The faithful debated passionately. Some saw these signs as confirmation that Satan's assault on the Church was reaching its climax. Others, more cautious, urged prayer and discernment, warning against hysteria, but all agreed. Something was happening unlike anything seen in living memory. And then, behind closed doors, Pope Leo XIV summoned his closest advisors for an emergency midnight meeting. The faces were grave. The air was heavy. They spoke in hushed voices, fully aware that history was being written in that very moment. According to leaks from the meeting, Pope Leo XIV spoke words that few expected. "I have seen what is coming. I have prayed before the bones of Peter." The fight is no longer about positions or titles. It is for the heart of Christ's bride herself. If it is God's will that I am stripped, so be it. But I will not bargain with truth to purchase peace. Heavy silence followed. And then, for the first time since his papal inauguration, Leo XIV authorized a secret investigation into the full extent of the internal factions threatening the unity of the Church. Not only those aligned with Cardinal Sarah, not only those aligned with Cardinal Tagle, but all those whose loyalty, finances, and ambitions may have crossed into realms no longer inspired by the Holy Spirit. The so-called Cruciatus Mandatum, the Mandate of the Cross, was quietly launched. Its existence remains officially denied. But insiders know, operatives trusted only by the Pope himself have now begun reviewing decades of hidden files, secret agreements, private correspondence, and unexplained financial transactions. They will leave no stone unturned. And yet, even this was not the end. Because as the investigation quietly unfolded, yet another twist sent shockwaves through the Vatican. A high-ranking archbishop, whose name remains withheld, fled Rome, under the cover of night, boarding a private jet bound for an undisclosed location. Leaks suggest he may have carried with him documents so sensitive, so dangerous, that they could expose not only corruption within the Curia, but possible foreign manipulation of church policy itself. Vatican insiders now fear what may happen if these files are ever made public. The spiritual storm is no longer contained. The body of Christ trembles. Catholics around the world now pray the rosary unceasingly. Chapels remain filled with candlelight vigils. The whispers grow. The great trial has begun. Pope Leo XIV remains silent publicly, but his every move is now watched not only by the world, but by heaven itself. And as dawn breaks once more over Rome, a quiet yet terrifying realization settles upon the Holy City. The true battle may not be between Tagle and Sarah, nor even between the factions of progressives and conservatives. The true battle may now be between light and darkness, truth and deception, angels and powers unseen. The gates of hell are pressing, but the church belongs to Christ, and even now, the next shocking twist awaits. And then, the unthinkable. 3 days after the mysterious flight of the Archbishop, a confidential report landed directly on the Pope's desk. Delivered in the dead of night by 2 members of the Swiss Guard, the envelope was sealed in crimson wax, the insignia of the Cruciatus Mandatum stamped upon its face. The contents were so sensitive that only Pope Leo XIV himself was authorized to break the seal. As he opened it beneath the flickering candlelight of his private chapel, his hands trembled slightly, not from fear of man, but from the overwhelming sense of standing at the edge of an abyss few pontiffs before him had ever faced. Inside were documents that confirmed what many had feared, but dared not speak aloud. A hidden network, composed not of one faction, but of multiple, overlapping alliances, operating within the Church for decades. Financial corruption, doctrinal manipulation, global actors leveraging spiritual authority for geopolitical gain. The depth of betrayal was staggering. But among the most shocking revelations was the existence of what the report called Concilium Tenebrarum, the Council of Darkness, an informal coalition of both clerics and laity, whose goal was not merely influence, but a redefinition of Catholic doctrine itself. Their stated aim: to create a new global Catholicism, one no longer bound by the moral absolutes of sacred tradition, but shaped instead by the ever-shifting winds of human progress. The documents named figures across multiple continents, some already suspected, others completely unsuspected. Cardinals, bishops, financiers, media magnates. And at the center of this swirling storm, 2 names emerged as symbolic opposites. Cardinal Sarah, standing against the Council's ambitions, and Cardinal Tagle, viewed by many within the group as a sympathetic bridge toward their goals, though whether Tagle himself fully understood the machinations behind him remained uncertain. Pope Leo XIV closed his eyes. The weight of Peter's keys never felt heavier. Meanwhile, the world outside, the Vatican sensed that something catastrophic was approaching. Rumors of the secret investigation leaked to Catholic media outlets, igniting a firestorm of speculation. Pilgrims once again flooded St. Peter's Square, kneeling before the towering basilica, weeping, praying, desperate for peace to return to the wounded bride of Christ. At Fatima, seers came forward claiming new private revelations. Some dismissed them. Others trembled. One such message, now spreading like wildfire, warned, "The smoke rises higher than before. The dragon circles the throne. The shepherd shall soon face the lion and the serpent. And in this hour the prayers of the faithful shall decide what heaven permits." The phrase, "the lion and the serpent," immediately stirred debate. Was the lion a reference to Cardinal Sarah, whose courage and uncompromising defense of truth had earned him the title of Lion among the Faithful? Was the serpent a veiled reference to the Council of Darkness? Was the shepherd Pope Leo XIV himself, now caught between forces far larger than mere human politics? And then, another twist, more astonishing than the last. In the ancient crypts beneath St. Peter's Basilica, where only a few are ever permitted to enter, Vatican workers conducting routine maintenance stumbled upon a sealed chamber previously undocumented. Its existence had been lost for centuries. When historians and theologians were summoned, what they discovered would send shockwaves across the world. Inside the chamber were scrolls, parchments, and coded manuscripts believed to date back to the early persecutions of the Church. Writings attributed to second-century Christians who, under threat of martyrdom, had documented prophetic visions concerning the Church's future trials. Among the decoded fragments was one chilling passage. "When the white robe is worn by one called Leo, and when the eastern flame rises, division shall tear the house of the fisherman. Brother shall strike brother. But in the hour of greatest trial, the woman clothed with the sun shall intervene, and the gates shall not prevail." The room fell silent. The implications were terrifying and divine all at once. Pope Leo, division, brothers striking brothers, and the promise of the woman, the Blessed Mother, intervening before final destruction. This passage, now called the Prophecy of the Hidden Chamber, quickly spread among the most trusted circles in the Vatican. Some saw it as confirmation that these events had long been foretold. Others feared it would spark even greater panic if revealed too quickly. But the spiritual battle was no longer theoretical. For the first time, unconfirmed reports began surfacing that certain bishops, quietly emboldened by the Council of Darkness, were preparing to challenge Rome directly if the upcoming synod did not yield to their demands. Some even spoke of organizing parallel structures of authority. A breakaway movement cloaked in the language of reform, but rooted in rebellion. The specter of schism, once unthinkable, now loomed like a storm cloud over the Church, and as the Vatican wrestled with these developments, Pope Leo XIV retreated once again into prayer. But this time, witnesses say, something happened in the quiet of his private chapel that left even his most trusted aides speechless. As he knelt before the Eucharist, his face tear-stained, Pope Leo XIV reportedly experienced a profound interior vision, one which he described to his confessor the following morning. I saw the bride clothed in white, torn and bleeding, her face in agony, upon her head a crown of thorns. Yet behind her the great dragon stood, its jaws open wide. But then the woman, radiant as the sun, descended, striking the serpent's head. The battle is not yet finished, but neither is it lost. The confessor, shaken, urged immediate consecration. And so, in secret preparations, plans began forming for Pope Leo XIV to issue a solemn consecration, one that would call upon heaven's protection in the most dramatic spiritual act of his pontificate. But time is short. The forces of division are advancing. The Council of Darkness grows bold. The faithful weep. The throne of Peter shakes. And somewhere, in the shadows of the Vatican, new conspiracies are already taking shape. The hour of judgment draws near, and the final chapter has not yet been written.